you were just saying like poorly optimized games
Well,
are
that
kind
is
of
part
guaranteed,
of
but
it.
like that does happen. Like we've had running games on the Series S, like Final Fantasy 16, the Series S version. It looks odd compared to all of the marketing material, right? And the marketing material is going to be the best case. It's going to be running on a PC, turned up all the way. It's going to look fantastic. But when you load up even Helldivers too, to some regard, running on the Series S, it's playable, it's fun, it looks fine. But there are times where it's like, this looks weird, and I would
Helldivers
rather.
2 on PC looks bad for me
Yeah,
because on the PC, if you don't turn down the graphics settings, the game crashes every 20 minutes.
So yeah, that's been kind of my argument for the lower spec systems is, they have GPU support out the wazoo on PC. A lot of games will run on potato specs just fine. So maybe that's on in Xbox's case, it's really on Microsoft creating a better development pipeline so they can better optimize these games, even if the hardware is limited, but also kind of be more upfront about what the expectation is for performance, which they were kind of. It's just it's not holding up great now compared to Series X and PS5 performance.
Now, before we jump into Soro's thoughts, I want to let you chime in. I want to say thanks to Real Kitty Hawk, aka Wes, for their tier 3 sub and 72 months support over on Twitch. Let's go. And also thank you guys so much for the likes already on the live show. Soro, back to you.
So on the hardware side of things, the console side and everything, is this more reminiscent of futures past? Like back in the, Dreamcast, PS1, SNES versions and stuff like that. Those were luxury products. You only ever had one console in your house. That was it, if you were lucky, and maybe a handful of games. Are we going back to that?
Yeah.
Like because of how expensive things are. Like I remember a few years ago, I had, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Xbox, Nintendo. Like I had a bunch of these things. I can't afford any of it now,
Well, and then you invest in like a PC, which we know you have because you're on this show, and then also played Blue Protocol, which right now is the only option is mobile phone. And then also you have mobile phones that do so much as well. Like that's the question I've been asking. I'd like the thoughts. Like, what sells you on that? Like, what makes it worth the pain of making sure that you've got the money budgeted and you actually spend it when the product arrives?
Like, I'm more willing to wait now because now you hear PlayStation and Xbox and everybody like that, except Nintendo, because Nintendo needs to be Nintendo, that they're going to be cross-platform with things.
There's no way the Switch 2 outsells the Switch 1.
I don't have a Switch 2. It's too expensive for me right now. But I do have 3 Switch 1s.
And they're going up in price. Jeez,
right. But now I can just wait a year and play the same game that, my buddy that has a PlayStation 5 or will have a PlayStation 6 or whatever. I'll just wait a year or wait 6 months and play that game on my PC, which I built, myself 5-6 years ago, and still runs games like Clair Obscur, for example. Beautiful game. Runs that on ultra settings with parts from 5 years ago.
Right.
Just fine. Like, why do I need, this thing that runs at lower FPS that cost an arm and a leg to have, and it has only a very few games on it to begin with?
Yeah, I think I legitimately think that the PS5 is probably the last time, or this generation is probably the last time I buy like the major players in the console space, with crossplay, cross-platform, just becoming the norm. And then the PC release is kind of guaranteed from everybody now except Nintendo. Like, what is the selling point for the next Xbox or the PS6 for me then?
What do you think the selling, like, would you see any kind of value in the Steam box? Because essentially that's being rumored and leaked that is also on its way. And the thing for me, the selling point for me on the next Xbox is that I can play Final Fantasy 11 on it back on my television in my living room, because it runs Steam and all the things, right? Like the selling point for that is that I'm in the market for a device that does everything my computer can do, but focusing in on just give me options, right? That's the big weakness. That's my biggest frustration with the Switch 2. I own one. I love it. Like, I played Donkey Kong. I've enjoyed that experience. But as soon as I'm done with that experience, I set it down until another experience that I want to have comes out. That isn't every day. So I go back to my Steam Deck because that runs GeForce Now. That runs all these games. That has my, my Spider-Mans and all of it. That is the preferred gaming experience. And yes, I could technically dock the Steam Deck to, I guess, the TV. I don't want to. Just keep it simple. And so the selling point for me is that. But
so I wouldn't mind the Steam Box or the Steam Deck with like a external GPU dock situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like you dock it, it's a little more powerful. So then there as long as the ease of access remains the same or similar, right? Because like my biggest hang up with most PC games is I got to go and tweak a couple of things unless it's like an indie game or just just a low spec game that runs really well without me touching anything. And Steam's gotten a lot better about that. I just think across the board there's a lot of work to be done to achieve that console level of simplicity, right? I'm really hoping we get there. Xbox is doing a lot of stuff there. Steam's done a lot there. I feel like we're close. And once that happens, it's going to be hard to sell anyone on a console then, right? Because it's like you get the Steam box, you have access to everything Steam has, which is basically everything right now.
The only people I think that you then be appealing to is both, again, that's why we're seeing that luxury product. That's why we're also saying, like I was going to say, what we're thinking we're living through is the death of Moore's first law and the birth or the continued strengthening of his second law, that as that power continuously goes up, the cost becomes exponential as well to hit that next milestone. And so it's like, all of a sudden, everything so what you don't get these monumental leaps that you would experience, but yet the cost has gone up. And so it essentially disincentivizes everybody from actually kind of opting in, which means the only people who are opting in are the wealthy who have the money. So it becomes that luxury brand. It becomes that luxury experience that you have. And thus it does cut out a big portion of the market. How do you solve for that? Accessibility.